Hey y'all, Melissa here with you today, and today I've got another installment of your sewing questions answered. Today I'm answering the question, how did you learn to make sewing patterns? So I'm going to be sharing with you some books that I use to learn pattern drafting, and I've got all of those books linked below so that if you see one that you like, you can go ahead and grab it. I'm going to be showing you these books in chronological order, the way I was introduced to them personally. That's not necessarily the order that I would recommend for beginners, and as I go over the books, I will tell you why. We're also going to be using a piece of vocabulary that you might want to know. I'm going to be talking about slopers. Slopers are sometimes also called pattern blocks, and what a sloper is a flat pattern representation of your body. The goal is to be pretty fitted to your body with just the minimum amount of ease needed for breathing and movement. It is going to be a very plain garment, so a neckline that goes up to your neck, a sleeve that goes down to your wrist and is pretty fitted. Darts to shape things to fit it to your body. So that's what a sloper is, and all of these books do start with slopers because that is the building block of any sewing pattern that you're going to make. So the first book is How to Make Sewing Patterns by Donald McCunn. This one is the least expensive of the books I'm going to be showing you today because it is paperback and it is not super thick. Some of the things I like about this book are that it has a really good section on how to take measurements for yourself. So if you don't have somebody to help you measure your body and you're trying to draft a sloper for your personal measurements, this book is really helpful for that. This also resulted in the best fitting slopers that I've ever drafted for myself. However, it is not the easiest to understand of these books, and therefore this is not the one I would recommend starting with if you have the option to get one of the other books. It also does not have as much detail about adapting the sloper patterns into other shapes. It has a little bit, but it is definitely not as detailed as these other books. The book I actually would recommend as a great beginner book is Winifred Aldrich. She has 3 books here. The first one I'm showing, this is Metric Pattern Cutting for Women's Wear. She also has metric pattern cutting for children's wear and metric pattern cutting for men's wear. So it's nice that there's a book for each kind of separate segment of the pattern design market. And I think that her instructions are the easiest ones to follow to draft slopers. Unfortunately, this is not the best fitted sloper for me personally. And when I've tried to use her instructions to draft slopers for plus sizes in particular, they come out strangely. So she works from a series of size charts that she includes in the front for you here. And some of the size assumptions I think are a little outdated. And that becomes problematic then, especially where I notice it is with arm size on a bodice. So for that reason, it's a little more difficult to use. It's also, if you're in the US, this is metric measurement. So if you're used to using imperial, like inches and feet measurements, she's in centimeters and millimeters. Another good thing about this book, though, is that she has lots and lots of adaptations for different styles in her books and showing you how to take the basic sloper patterns and adapt them into these different styles. So I do like that. It's not a super thick book, but I feel like it covers more than the McCunn book. The next book is the most expensive of the books I'm sharing today. This is Pattern Making for Fashion Design by Helen Joseph Armstrong. This one is often used as text in college classes on flat pattern making, and you can see it's a pretty thick book. It is extremely comprehensive, so all kinds of different styles, pattern illustrations, challenges, things to do. It does have small sections included specifically for men's wear and children's wear. So it's extremely comprehensive. It is not as hard to understand, I don't think, as the McCunn book. The main drawback to this one is just the cost, I think, and also that it can feel a little overwhelming because it is such a big book and it is so comprehensive. But I think if you start at the beginning and you read through it, it is extremely helpful, and again, is the most comprehensive of these books. This is one I often reach for references. Okay, if you've gotten basic pattern making down and you're ready to take it to the next level, then there's this series of books called Pattern Magic, and there's Pattern Magic 1, 2, and 3. They're by Tomoko Nakamichi, and this is a Japanese fashion instructor. And the reason I think these are valuable is he takes kind of ridiculously hard to imagine pattern design and shows you in a very simple way like how you get these very interesting constructions of fabric, how to manipulate fabric in these ways. And the basic premise is that he builds stuff out of paper, kind of, and then translates that into fabric. So when you're ready to really start exploring darts and gathers and form from a sloper to strange things like these three-dimensional boxes on this pattern, this book is really cool to start learning those things. Now, have I ever sewn any of these designs? No, but I do think that once I had a basic grasp of pattern design, these books were great at helping me think to the next level on things. So for that reason, I do recommend at least checking them out from the library if your library has them, because the way he shows things and the way he makes you think about pattern making, I think is really valuable. So those are 4 pattern making books that I personally have used and think are great for learning. If you have a different sewing question that you'd like to see answered on one of these segments in the future, pop it in the comments below or submit it in the form in the description. And if you want to see what other questions I've already answered, I've got a playlist with my sewing questions that you can check out.